Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to the We Are Careers Show Season 9 finale. I know, hard to believe, isn't it? We've got a really exciting episode lined up today. Lots and lots of chatter amongst the careers sphere kind of over the past few weeks about this exact topic, all about kind of selling the sector, thinking about does careers have a marketing problem and how might we solve that kind of moving forward? If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. This is the We Are Careers Show, and although it is our season finale, we will be back in September. So you're not joining us for the fond farewell. You're just joining us for a hurrah for now. And if this is your first time, a little bit of info about us. What do we do here? So We Are Careers is your kind of fortnightly CPD sort of snippet for careers professionals working in the career development sector, anywhere really across the world in any context. And it's providing you with those kind of bite-sized chunks of topical issues that are affecting the sector, featuring, as always, some fantastic guests who we will be saying hello to very shortly. My name is Chris Webb, and if you've not come across me before, I'm a higher education careers professional and member of the Career Development Institute. And I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host, meet Sabiha. So, Sabiha, a very warm Wednesday, not a warm Wednesday where we are right now in the UK, but how are you doing? You're having a good start to the week.
Do you know what? It's funny that you say that. I decided to put on bright colours today to make myself feel the summer sort of vibe, even though the weather has very different plans for that. And already we've got somebody, Carolyn, in the chat already saying a very hello, welcome from a very great mid-Wales. So let us know, use that chat box. For those of you who are our regular viewers, welcome. It's great to have you here. And if perhaps you've joined in on one of the platforms for the very first time, hello, and stay tuned till the end because we've got two fabulous guests with us today that are going to be exploring this topic around, does the careers profession have a problem around marketing? And you can always join in the conversation by using the chat box feature, regardless of what platform you are watching us on, and do join in the conversation and share your views. Now, I do want to say one thing, and I do have a request for help. We need your support as a show. The more people that hit that subscribe button, hit those like buttons, the better it works with the sort of algorithms that happen on all of these various platforms. So please, if you haven't already and you are enjoying and loving the content and the guests that we bring, because we just want to build, as Chris said, we're building on this and we'll be back for season 10 later this year. Please support us by hitting that subscribe and like button. Now, the topic that we're going to be joining, I've got amazing guests, Farrah and Jamie, who are going to be exploring this topic of, does the sector have a marketing problem? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas and opinions, so please do drop that in the chat box. And also by the end of the show as well, I've got 3 great CDI news updates, which includes a big reveal on the new EPSC election results. I've got some inspirational ideas for developing your CPD, and also I've got save the date as well for an amazing conference that's coming up later in the year. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm known as Meet Sabiha. I work internationally, helping young professionals get unstuck and get back into career flow without the stress. And I'm also the creator of the I Am Thriving Career Coaching Program, where I work with and help international career coaches transform their career practices. Now, the next part of the show is all about celebrating, yes, you, the viewer, and those of you that are doing amazing, fantastic job in the sector. And that's known as our Careers Cheers. So, Chris, who are we cheering for this week?
Yes, thanks, Sabiha. So this week's got a bit of a policy theme to it, so kind of bear with me, and links to some of the stuff that we sort of shared in the last episode. So our first kind of careers cheers goes out to Professor Siobhan Neary, Professors Tristram Hooley and Chris Percy for their work on the Investing in Careers report. Now, if you've not come across this was launched at the Policy Connect event on the 18th of July, and it's all about that career guidance guarantee. It's looking at basically the financial return on investment from investing in careers guidance. That's what it says on the tin. I won't bore you with the details, but there's some really great content in there. And if you're someone who's interested in kind of making the case for why do we invest in careers work, this is a fantastic place to start. So leading on from that, our Careers Cheers number 2 goes out to everyone from the Career Development Policy Group that represented the careers profession at the Parliamentary Roundtable event. That was on the 18th of July, and that was with the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Careers, Skills and Employment. So again, really getting some great representation there in terms of talking about issues impacting the career sector. I know that pay came up. I know that sort of questions around professionalism came up as well. So lots of really kind of topical conversations happening with policymakers, where it kind of counts, sort of down in Westminster. Sadly, it should count everywhere, but we know that that's where a lot of decisions get taken. So it's great to see that work happening. And then final Careers Cheers goes out to Dr. Deirdre Hughes and Chris Percy again. Double mention for Chris, just for some of the work they're doing leading the AI in Career Development Working Group. They're driving some really valuable conversations there around how we can kind of apply the use of generative artificial intelligence within the work of the careers profession, what some of the guardrails might be, ethical considerations, some really interesting conversations happening there. So those are 3 Careers Cheers for the week.
Wow, what a sort of kind of breadth and depth of different careers cheers. Isn't it just great to hear about all these sort of different projects and ideas that are being developed in the sector? And speaking of sort of sector, I just want to bring in some of the viewers that are watching us from right now. We've got a very sort of international audience today because we've got people here from Glasgow. Hi, Teresa. Then we've got Naz from Melbourne. We've got someone here from Cambridgeshire, Woman Muggy here, and Teresa joining in with the careers cheers. Thank you, Teresa. And if you heard names, if you heard maybe ideas and project ideas for the very first time, make sure sort of, after the show, of course, not during the show, because we've got to listen now to our amazing 2 guests, Farrah and Jamie, who are going to come very shortly. Check out that information that is being shared. There might be something in there that will allow you to enhance your CPD. So I want to head on over now to our first guest, which is Farrah. Hello, Farrah. Thanks for joining us today, who is known as the Grad Coach. Now, for people that don't know you or hearing about you for the first time, what would you say? How would you describe the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. And by the way, thank you for having me for your season finale. I feel very honoured. So I work with fresh grads and students on how they can essentially get themselves noticed and hired far quicker and easier than if they had to do that big task alone straight out of uni. So yeah, I work one-on-one with them on my Careers Accelerator program, and we cover everything graduate job search related, everything from online assessments, standout CVs, nailing assessment centres, you name it, because it's a big world out there. And so far, it's been incredible. I've worked with 40 students and grads. 90% of them have been hired in 3 months or less, and 40% of them have been hired in 1 month or less. So I'm really big on graduates not wasting their time and just getting started with their inspiring, well-paid careers a lot quicker and easier.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. And we're going to be talking about results as well, aren't we, Chris? We're going to be digging into that. But Jamie, I want to bring you in. So again, Jamie, for those of people that are hearing from you for the very first time, what is something that you'd like them to know about the work that you do, and what brought you to the work that you are currently doing right now as well? That'd be a good one.
Yeah, so just to echo Farrah, I mean, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I've watched it so many times and watched other people talking and thought I'd love to get a chance to speak. So yeah, it's brilliant to be a part of it. So thank you very much. So I was a careers advisor and working in the career space for quite a while. Initially did the level 4, then went on to top up to the level 6. Then secured a job as a careers leader after doing a bit of work internationally. Essentially, once COVID hit and the pandemic happened, I realized that the engagement from students just wasn't there in terms of careers, and the stuff that I was sending out, I just wasn't getting any kind of feedback or any kind of questions or follow-up from that. So basically decided there was something that needed to be done. At this point, had no idea it might grow into an income source or a business, and started to develop some LMI resources. The early ones that came out that are still on the YouTube channel now are very primitive, to say the least, but they were kind of an engaging way of getting young people to look at LMI. I think my kind of background, so I grew up playing in like rock and punk bands, so I've always thought of myself as a bit of a natural kind of disruptor, I suppose, and definitely wanting to carry that into this industry. I remember sitting in classrooms myself and thinking, I can't see the point of doing this, whatever this may be, and that kind of led me to create these Benchmark 4 resources. essentially mapped out all of the maths curriculum and explicitly linked them to careers in video format, just trying to help teachers as well as other careers development professionals. So I think the kind of main takeaways of the things that I'm trying to achieve are those kind of easy to reach, easy to access resources for people to get hold of, just to enhance careers education in general. Alongside that, proud member of the CDI, got my badge on my lanyard. Proud member of the CDI and a level 6 careers advisor. So yeah, that's kind of a brief summary of me. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, fabulous. What's resonating, viewers? What's resonating for you? You've heard now introductions from both of our amazing guests today. Does the work that they do resonate with what you are doing? Or perhaps maybe you worked in a similar type of field to what they have, or maybe you work in something completely different, but there's some good practice there. So Chris, I know we want to get stuck into the topic today because we always seem to run out of time, don't we? So shall we get stuck in and start exploring this topic around marketing and the challenges that our sector faces?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sabiha. So I think, yeah, a good place to start is really leading on from where both of you have sort of, kicked us off, really, which is that there often seems to be that perspective around kind of careers work, whether it's, careers advisors or just kind of careers work in general, a lot of misconceptions about, what it involves. And also, sometimes maybe kind of unfounded negative perceptions, or just simply a lack of kind of understanding of what actually do careers professionals do? What does the work entail? How do we support people? And I suppose a good place to start is, why do we think that is? Why do we think careers might have a marketing problem? So Farrah, if I can kind of come to you first, and then Jamie, I'll come back to you afterwards. Where do you think this kind of idea of maybe a marketing problem for careers work stems from?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I can speak anecdotally, right? Because I'm an old grad myself. I graduated in 2016, and definitely I connect with thousands of students and grads on this. There is just this disconnect between what it actually takes to get yourself noticed and hired, and what is being offered in, for example, your university degree, and how career services can connect the dots. Because if we think about marketing psychology, we know that people buy great solutions to their greatest problems. Well, we're not going to buy into a career service if we don't know the problem even exists. And I think there's a long-standing assumption that if you get into a uni, especially a certain type of uni, you're going to be instantly noticed and hired. And we know in reality that is just not the case. And everything that I've learned from my careers work, and also being a graduate employer for the best part of 5 years, it's not the best candidate who gets themselves hired. It is always the best communicator. And it's the same for careers work as well, right? It's not necessarily the best coach or the best advisor that gets all the work. It's the best marketer. So we have to be a bit strategic in how we're going to maybe share the results, or share as well what's in it for the person, maybe the student or grad. What do they stand to gain from buying into this service, and how can it be a positive part of their life, or something that's transformative, rather than just something they see as an extra, but ultimately the degree is going to be the thing that really makes the difference.
And tell us a bit more, Farrah, about, from your kind of experience, how you've sort of done that with the Career Accelerator program, because I think it's really interesting around the hook, as you're saying. Why should I bother engaging with what you're providing? So how have you kind of targeted? Well, it sounds terrible. How have you targeted students and grads from that perspective, in terms of kind of showcasing why they should kind of get involved with the programs that you run?
Yeah, and I think this is really, really important. We're serving our target audience. So it doesn't matter who it is. It could be someone reaching retirement. It could be someone at the very beginning of their career. We need to have emotional reasons for why they're buying into the work that we do. And if we think about copywriting, just as a really basic concept on somewhere like LinkedIn, well, we want to seek to inspire, maybe educate, entertain even, or challenge people's thinking. But those four are really good places to start. And I think the more we can invest in giving value to that community or that audience that we're looking to create, the more willing they are to buy into what we do. But we've got to be creative. We've got to be energetic. At the end of the day, I mean, I can only speak from, a Gen Z perspective. We have about a second and a half to interest people in what we do. So we've got to be bold. We've got to be strategic about how we're going to bring what we do to life. And also the logic side as well, because I've spoken about emotion here. I think there's an emotional argument to buy into careers. There's also a logical side. So thinking about those stats and figures, how can we paint a picture of what difficulty somebody might face without that career support? Sometimes we need a shocking statistic to jump people into action. or even a positive statistic. You know, what do they stand to gain? You know, time saved or money increased, you know, better salary, better opportunity, whatever that is, but hooking people in with powerful statistics so that logically they can buy into it as well.
I think it's a really important point around that idea of, and I know you've talked about this before, sort of showing results as well, you know, for an area that maybe it's sometimes perceived as being quite difficult to show results within career development work, which of course can be a very broad church. You know, we're not always necessarily working with people where they're at the point of wanting to be hired, where perhaps, as you said, it can be a easier way to put together some stats around, you know, 90% hired within 3 months. Okay, that's fantastic, brilliant returns. And so what I'd like to do is kind of maybe bring Jamie in here, thinking back to your experience as a careers leader, where maybe we're working with kind of students or with educators or other stakeholders where perhaps getting immediate results might be kind of quite challenging from a career development perspective or a careers education perspective, but nonetheless, as Farrah's rightly said, we kind of need to show the value that we're bringing. So what's your kind of perspective and experience on that, Jamie, in terms of how we, I guess, demonstrate that value where there might not be a short-term or an immediate result, but yet we're still working towards that in some shape or form?
Yeah, I think from working as a careers leader, there's kind of multiple strands to it. Obviously, we have a lot of careers development professionals are focusing on things like neat figures, but we've all had experiences as careers advisors, particularly working with young people, where somebody might go into educational training, but we know that it wasn't necessarily the right thing for them, and they just made a quick decision. So that kind of results-based thing is really difficult to judge, because if we have every student go off to the same college to do the same course, we haven't succeeded in what we've done, but we have got a really good figure. So looking at a result from that kind of way is quite difficult, I think. I think you do see noticeable increases in engagement in students if they are engaged with careers education, if they can see a purpose in what they're doing. I think the one of the big things within the industry is we rely on quite anecdotal evidence. So we look at individual students. This student did this student went on to that. And it's quite hard to track later on, kind of down the line, what exactly that looks like and what they went on to do. We look at the Gatsby benchmarks, and we have the 3-year tracking solution, which is obviously a controversial thing in itself. But the 3-year tracking, again, doesn't really help to assist us in tracking exactly how successful that careers development work was. I think from my point of view, I only work with young people. I don't work with adult clients. But there's kind of two strands in terms of the careers advice, and we need to get buy-in and market to kind of the people that are paying for the service, which is schools, colleges, training providers, pupil referral units, things like that. But we also need buy-in from the people that are receiving the service and the young people, so they feel like they find it important. And obviously Farrah's got a different kind of target audience to mine, but having that two strands of marketing, I think, is kind of important, and kind of the bit that we're missing out on as an industry. I think we have a bit of an issue in terms of the school side of things, where we're still picking up, because careers is coming into the limelight a lot in terms of its importance, in terms of Ofsted looking at it, in terms of things like that. We're still picking up from the past of people that were pushed into careers that didn't really want to go into careers. So a lot of them went on to be brilliant careers development professionals, but librarians that were given the additional responsibility, somebody that worked in pastoral that was given the additional responsibility. And what's really interesting now is we're at a point where, from what I can see, we've got people that are coming in that want to work in the profession rather than picking it up because the opportunity presented itself in a meeting. And that's changing things. It's changing people's desire to work in the industry. And I think we've got to, the more that happens, the more we'll change the perception, because ultimately, if somebody doesn't want to do the job, it's quite difficult for them to market themselves in a positive way. Yeah. And the last kind of final bit on this for me is, I think we need to talk to young people in the way that they want to be spoken to. And I wrote an article recently on LinkedIn about, you know, we focus all of the careers education stuff that we do predominantly, other than those that are paying for it privately, through education in schools. Yet statistics would suggest that 20% of students are regularly absent from school. 25% suggest that they don't feel a sense of belonging within education. So why are we not exploring other channels? And that's the bit for me that I find really interesting.
Oh, some powerful points and ideas, and I love that how we're unpicking it. And obviously I know sort of later on in the show we're going to be coming up with some ideas and solutions and some practical things that our viewers can take away from the show, but so many valuable points. And in fact, I want to come to address some of those, but the chat box is just blowing up, so I actually want to bring in some of the audience members in here for a moment. So, you know, people are acknowledging, liking the energy to create accessible client-led resources, which is one of the points that Farrah was making. Marketing problem, it's complex to explain what we do, and it's hard to communicate the benefits. But you can see from what Farrah and Jamie are saying, viewers, that there are small ways, minute ways of how we can sort of introduce that. We're getting a lot of love from Farrell, from what you were saying. Somebody clearly resonated with what you were saying. And then we've got another Facebook user. We need to focus on results and systematic benefits of what we do rather than just what we do. People care about results, not the methodology, which is exactly what both Farrah and Jamie have been encouraging us to sort of kind of do. We've got another Facebook user here saying that that's an interesting idea to show a possible trajectory without guidance. Like, what would life look like for our clients, and whoever that client base is, whoever it is that we're serving, what would life look like? What would be the impact, both positive and negative, if they weren't accessing, sort of kind of registered career professionals? Another person here, oh, sorry, that went off screen quicker than I could read it. Emma Hill here saying, I totally agree with what Farrah is saying. We often use language like support, guide, help. It's probably not punchy or bold enough. We need to have more confidence in the value we add. And we've got here Tracy here. Teachers in schools need to buy into the importance of career education offered. So it's not just then them, the career professional, against the teachers. It should definitely be a sort of kind of collaboration. And stay tuned to the end, because I've got some, I'm going to be talking about that in the CDI news. Good point, Jamie. Our stories are our capital, so sharing our enthusiasm for our work is key. And that's the point, isn't it? If we as professionals can't get excited about the work that we do, why would anybody else want to work with us, whoever that client group community is that we serve? And then sort of kind of finally, and then I'm going to kind of jump back into the question.
I'll flash him up, Sabiha. We are going to totally run out of time here.
I know that, like I say, we love, by the way, thank you, audience. We love it when you join in the conversation, and we love it when you post. So if you've got any more questions or comments or ideas, please do sort of kind of bring them in. But as Chris mentioned there, we always do run out of time, and I do want to make sure that we allocate some time now to explore what can individuals working in the career development space do to communicate the support they offer in a clearer and more engaging way, which is something that both the guests have alluded to today, and also we're picking that up in the chatter, in the group, in the chat boxes as well. So Jamie, if I come to you first, what do you think individuals can do?
Yeah, I think it's about finding the channel that works of communication. I think it's partly to do with, and this is a thing that I deal with myself, is partly deciding what it is that I want to offer. Because when you're working in the career space, often you can be dragged into lots of different work, and you maybe think, I'm just going to focus on offering guidance, and then you get the offer to go and run some workshops, and then that becomes part of your work. Then you maybe do a little bit of corporate work, working with businesses to develop careers, and you just get dragged from kind of here, there, and everywhere. So I think part of it is understanding what you actually want to offer, because lots of us offer really diverse kind of product ranges and things, service offers and things. So first is kind of that. The second is taking time to kind of work in marketing, and I think this is where you kind of need to have a little bit of a business head, particularly if you're self-employed, but potentially even if you're building a department within a school or college, where you have to take the time to do things like create a video testimonial, create some kind of social media post, create some kind of video that might go out during a tutor time, whatever it might be. And the difficult thing, particularly when you're self-employed like I am, is that those bits that you do don't earn you any money. You can have a whole day, and I spent a whole day working with a school that I had a contract with last year to come up with a testimonial video, and it included the head talking and 3 students talking. That was a non-paid day. I'm not getting any money for that, but it was amazing for me to look back and reflect on my own practice, but also amazing as a marketing tool, because you can put it out and you can share it with other schools, and people are interested in it. I think that there's kind of 2 points. A lot of careers development professionals are working in schools, so you are getting dragged here, there, and everywhere else. So having the ability to say, actually, I'm just going to spend a day recording a video, maybe doesn't work. But when you're self-employed, particularly, I think finding the time to do those kind of things are really important. And the other thing I think is to kind of share as much as you can within the community, because I find that a lot of work and a lot of leads come through people within the community. And equally, I signpost a lot of other careers professionals to work that I can't pick up or I don't want to pick up. But just sharing within that community, offering free things, and nobody should be working for free. We should value our time. But that's another strand of marketing, is to be able to offer the occasional freebie or the occasional whatever that helps within the community, and understanding that wider picture. I probably have 3 meetings a week with people within the industry that I don't do any kind of financial, work with, or I don't make any money from the conversations. But they are conversations that maybe I have someone else to signpost to. Maybe I have somebody else that I can call upon when I'm not sure how to do something. And I think being part of that community is really important.
I love that. So one of the key things that I'm taking away from you, Jamie, and there were several key points there, but I think one that stood out for me and perhaps resonated with me the most was collaboration and, and focus, deciding what it is that you want to do, who it is that you want to serve. Because as you said, we're distracted, aren't we? By so many things, and these phones, as much as they can help us in our work, they can also be hindrances as well, isn't that? I mean, we've all done it, haven't we, where we've gone on Facebook or another platform, started scrolling, looking for one specific piece of information, and then it's been an hour later and you've ended up buying a dress or some random thing, or watching funny cat videos or whatever it may be. So I like that, Jamie, that your point. How about you, viewers? What Jamie has shared with us in terms of sort of the practical things that we can do? What's resonating for you? What do you see yourself doing now as a result of what Jamie's sharing with us? And I want to bring Farrah in the mix. Farrah, what would you say? What are some of the things that individual practitioners can do working in the career space so that they can support what they do and you sort of kind of share that in a more clearer and a more engaging way?
Mm-hmm. Firstly, I just want to say, Jamie, I resonate with so much of what you just said there. So a ton of gold in that. But just to add to the mix, I'm going to talk about my favorite platform, which is LinkedIn. Just to give you some context, because I feel like it can be difficult to buy into marketing ourselves, actually becoming marketers, whether we're self-employed or working for an institution. But I went from 500 to 5,000 followers in a year, and this was from daily content posting. I think this is one of the strongest platforms. One, because it's a careers-centered platform. Two, people are very receptive to accept requests and then start digesting new content from new people. So I think it's really, really powerful. And in that as well, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And I do think people are probably more geared to trust an individual than they are an institution. I'm not saying that's right, but that's just the psychology that underpins a lot of these things. So you building your personal brand is the ultimate investment. On LinkedIn, there's studies done, and an individual page performs 24 times better than a company page. So it's powerful stuff. And again, similar to what Jamie was saying, we've almost got these two sets of skills that we're grappling with in this world. We've got our sort of coaching skills, our advisory skills, like the delivery of our practice. And then over here, we've got our marketing skills or our business acumen. Before you invest in that next coaching diploma, that next thing that's going to enhance your delivery, invest in your business skills and your marketing. Things like copywriting, things like how do you actually strategically build a personal brand or content, for example. It will be the thing that pays off again and again and again for your business or the people that you work for.
I think they're absolutely brilliant points. I'm going to see if kind of the audience got anything else to add before we kind of round things off. But I think there's two things in there for me that kind of really stand out. So, Sabiha mentioned that idea of focus is kind of fascinating with careers professionals, because you're both absolutely right, getting pulled in different directions, but also the acknowledgement that we need to have these kind of diverse, multitudinous skill sets now. That there's no kind of hiding from that, really. I think it's one of those things where I think Emma Hill mentioned it in the chat, possibly the language around our profession feels quite soft in a positive way a lot of the time. It's support, it's help, it's guidance. But actually, careers professionals get fantastic results with clients. And those results may look like different things. They may not always be a job. It might be increased career confidence. It might be helping somebody to broaden their horizons. But actually, how often do we really kind of sell that as we're providing a service and this service gets results? So I think it's kind of fascinating to hear that reflected. I think also, people won't be surprised to hear me see this or say this, I should say, but that kind of building a personal brand that you've mentioned, Farrah, the consistency. I know Stephen Bartlett talks about that a lot, the kind of the drip, drip, drip of consistency on social media. I've seen that a lot with the newsletter I kind of produce on LinkedIn. I've seen it a huge amount with your content, with Jamie's content, lots of kind of careers professionals who adopt that approach. And it really is amazing to see how much you just appear in kind of people's consciousness by constantly putting out that content. As you said, some of it free, some of it kind of linking to your kind of paid content, but all of it valuable. And all of it's a way to kind of draw people in. So really, really great points. Sabiha, have we got any kind of final comments just in the chat before we move on to the news? Because I appreciate, as always, we're running out of time, but this has been such an interesting conversation.
Well, it's funny because, one of the areas that we didn't get even a chance, and it's probably another show for next season, which is talking about how AI, we didn't even kind of get a chance to sort of kind of touch that subject, but perhaps, skills tackling, of how that would work in. So definitely, we've got more to explore on this subject and definitely more ideas. So maybe we have you guys back on again very soon to kind of explore the part 2. And in terms of what the users and our viewers are saying this lunchtime, we've got Emma Hill saying we've been talking about how the messaging needs to be really tailored for each of our markets. And Emma there's explaining about what that looks like in HE. We've got lots of people saying great advice. Jamie and Farrah, you've definitely got people thinking about what they can do. And once again, Emma Hill coming in saying yes to personal branding, how that matters. And I love that point, actually, that, perhaps now, maybe even is this an idea that, when new careers professionals are being trained at whatever route that they are taking, that there's a module in there on marketing and how to market it? Because I know when I qualified, there was nothing. I was not taught anything. Everything that I've learned about marketing was down to myself and the work that I did. And on that note, I'm going to leave it there for people to think about, because we are now wrapping up the show for today. So thank you, Farrah. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us. You saw their contact information on the screen. Hope you've taken a screen grab of that. But of course, head on over to LinkedIn, or Google them. They will pop up and connect and continue the conversation outside of the show today. So, final CDI news of this season. What stories did I pick for us? So, for those of you that are CDI members, and if you're not, why aren't you? Head on over to the website, because the committee members elected several new members for the Ethics and Professional Standards Committee, also known as the EPSC. Now, there were several people that you will see names flashing on screen now. And I just want to say a big, big congratulations to all of you that were nominated for all your various roles, which includes Mark Fox, Liz Reese, Hannah, Courtney Bennett, Georgina Blackburn, and Jackie Phipps. Jackie Phipps was also elected as well. So congratulations, and we'll look forward to seeing what amazing work you will do in your capacity in this new committee. So that's story number 1. Story number 2 is all around helping you, you the career professional, have some inspiration and some ideas of your continuous professional development. And in fact, the guest didn't know that I was going to be talking about this. However, the news story that I picked was all about networking, collaborating, collaboration. And I would encourage you, if you haven't already, and you are a CDI member, to join a community of practice, because what it will allow you to do, it will allow you to refresh, re-engage, and re-energize your practice, especially if you're somebody who works alone, or perhaps maybe you work in an organization where there aren't that many career professionals. By joining a community of practice, and there are so many, you can head on over to the CDI website where there's lists of all the different communities that you can join from. You've got professional community of practice, there's careers leaders, careers development in Scotland, careers leaders in the UK, there's private practitioners, then careers leaders, there's even a careers book club, if that is something that floats your boat and that would help you stay engaged and relevant to the work that you are doing. Head on over to the CDI website. And then finally, my sort of kind of third pick of today is save the date, 4th and 6th of December 2023. It's going to be an in-person online event. The CDI are pleased to announce, and I know it feels at the moment like a very long way away, but I promise you, Chris and I will, before you know it, be wearing our Christmas jumpers. Before we know it, they're going to be holding, CDI are going to be holding a summit and conference, and the events reflect the dual commitment to championing the sector at a strategic level, very much in line and in tune with what we've been talking about today, and looking at ways of how they can supporting the career development professionals in enhancing their practice for clients of all ages in all settings. And that's my news roundup. So Chris, what have you got for the main news stories?
Yes, thanks, Spears. So I've just got 3 kind of quick ones today before we sort of round things off for season 9. So the first one, first news story, is something I think a few people will have been involved in already. I've seen a few posts kind of knocking about on LinkedIn, and that's the Squiggly Careers Skills Sprint. So if you've not come across the work of Amazing If before, that's Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis, who run the Squiggly Careers podcast. They've got kind of a special sort of initiative going on across August, which is sort of a mini kind of 7-minute podcast each day, each weekday in August. that's kind of accompanied by a particular kind of squiggly career skill that they're kind of providing advice, kind of signposting information on. So things like giving feedback, asking for help, negotiation, all those sorts of things. It's quite a nice way, sort of bite-sized way of kind of working on these different career development skills. And you can also kind of capture it in this kind of checklist they've got. So it's a bit like Duolingo. It's kind of getting you into that psychology of building up a learning streak. But really interesting. If you've not come across it, it only started yesterday, so there's still time to kind of work through all 20 days across the month of August. So do check that out if you've not seen it already. Our second news story is a really interesting article from the Career Guidance for Social Justice blog, all about good work, but the role of employers in creating kind of decent work, particularly in reference to degree apprentices. So really kind of nice insight into that role that employers play, both in terms of developing the employability of their staff, but also in terms of kind of providing the environment for decent work, and then also kind of the advocacy role that careers professionals have. So kind of coming back to really what both Jamie and Farrah have been saying, you know, those diverse roles of careers professionals, and kind of what we do to support clients, not just necessarily in one-to-one delivery work, but maybe in the work we do with other stakeholders as well. So really, really good article from Fiona Christie there. Do check that out on the blog. And then finally, a little bit of fun to kind of finish with. So this is from Lee Felks from the Open University. He's a careers consultant there. He's had a really kind of interesting post this week about how people got into careers professional work, basically, or becoming careers professionals. And so there's some fascinating stuff in there, examples of how people basically got into the career development sector, linking a little bit to what Jamie kind of mentioned today around, you know, people that have really kind of, I suppose, taken their time to think about why they want to be in the career sector. Some have taken very different routes to be there, through teaching, through HR, through recruitment, all sorts of different pathways. But it's a really nice post just for kind of spotlighting how people have got into the career development sector, and, you know, looking at different stories, different, I guess, approaches people have taken to sort of join the profession. So do check that out if you haven't seen it already. Sabiha, I think you may have posted on it. I may have posted on it. It's yeah, definitely a nice kind of heartwarming post for the careers profession.
It definitely was. It definitely was. And then that's it, Chris. And when are we coming back, Chris? When can people, if people are like, oh no, they've gone for the summer, when are we planning? When are we coming back with season 10? And what have we got lined up for them? Can we give them a little bit of a tease?
No, we can't. Is the answer. Is the answer. No, we need to keep things under our hats. We've got lots of interesting episodes. We've already got kind of quite a lot of the guests lined up, which is fantastic. So again, all a result of more people kind of watching the show and all of you who engage. So thank you so much for those that do. We will be back around sort of the end of September time onwards. Slightly kind of more episodes next season as we kind of lead into the Christmas period. And again, you know, we're always kind of looking for episode suggestions. Jamie's kind of mentioned in our private chat about skills stacking, which I think is one that maybe we need to look at for careers professionals more generally. I think that'd be a really interesting episode. So Jamie, we might steal your idea and credit you, of course. But yes, you can expect to have us back towards the end of September. Until then, you'll be able to find all of our episodes as usual on the CDI website and the Facebook Community of Practice, CDI LinkedIn page and CDI YouTube channel. And of course, we'll be promoting the recordings from this episode shortly after the show finishes, as always. But until then, have a wonderful rest of the summer, hopefully with slightly better weather than we're having now. A huge thank you to Farrah and to Jamie for being our final guests of season 9. And a massive thank you to everyone who's watching live and watching at home. We will see you all soon.